I've got an interesting situation occurred, and this affects radio as much as it affects organ building. Now, you'll recall that the gentleman from North Lincolnshire has been very kindly sending me some free gifts recently. I think that Midland 77104 was one from him the other day. And something else he sent me was this huge soldering iron. So compared to our Weller 45 watt one, I can't see how many watts this is offhand. Oh, does it say there? Is it 200? I'll clean that up and put it in the blurb later. And yesterday I was repairing that Fideity 1000 and there was a capacitor come off the chassis. So for the first time I plugged in this soldering iron and used this with so much ease to put that capacitor back on the chassis member without having to, you know, kind of wait for the Weller soldering iron to heat up and so on. So this worked. Now I've got a situation, I've got an organ pipe with an ear that's fallen off. Now this is a piece of scrap lead which is left over from when we had the chapel built last year. I found it on the ground and there's a split just there. I'll just put that soldering iron down. I'll just put it down without melting the bench. Probably. I'll just try and put the soldering iron down. So this piece of lead had a split just here and I've just soldered that up. As you can see, it's split. It hasn't got to go, it's just a demonstration that I could do it. Now the danger of soldering organ pipes, and they're usually lead tin alloy, whereas this is pure lead, is that you're going to end up with so much heat that you're going to put the soldering iron through the organ pipe. Now if I do that with this organ pipe, normally I don't do organ pipes, you know, I'm a church organ builder. I'm not a pipe maker, that's a different trade. They do a 7-year apprenticeship, just like I did a 7-year apprenticeship. It's like car makers not making alternators, you know, they were bought in part. So organ pipes are a part which we would buy in. And anything to do with them is usually done by them. Now they're in Leeds, and I'd have to take up the 4-foot organ pipe personally, which of course would have that fuel cost. So I've never done anything like this, so what we're going to do is I've cut a piece of lead off this corner, I've cleaned the edge, and I'm going to try and solder it. It's not even square. I'm going to try and solder it certainly in the middle to that, and we'll see whether I can do that successfully, and then whether I can transfer that skill onto the organ pipe without ruining it, because if I have to have another organ pipe made because I've wrecked it, obviously that's got a very different cost. I'll probably prop it up with that file, to be honest. Look how Heath Robinson this is. And we've only got the solder we would use for precision. We haven't got blooming great big solder. And this is real solder, it's not the type that you would find in ROHS compliant stuff, because we're doing repairs to old equipment. So I'm going to apply flux. And we'll just see whether we can start off in the middle . I'll tell you what, I'm struggling even with this big iron, with this surface area. I know one thing, whatever I do, it won't be as neat as if the pipe makers do it. I should only be able to tack in the middle because, as I said, this is a bit curved. Just there to see whether I can get anywhere near. You know what? I have got somewhere near. So if I can do that on the organ pipe, then that is going to be sufficient quality. So I've got a very nice seam just there, and I can probably pick up this whole piece of lead without that ripping off with the pliers. Notice I used the pliers because it's kind of warm. So having tried that technique and it worked, let's see whether we can do it on quite some money's worth of organ pipe. So you can see it's lost its ear. I don't know when it's lost its ear. Did we lose it in transit, or, you know, did it fall off 50 years ago? It theoretically, it doesn't 100% affect the notes, but it's going to be a bit windy without it. So I said that the correct procedure would be to send it in. What I now need to do is to find the piece of lead that we made. This is where we have to pause the camera. We actually made a piece to fit. Yeah, I'll pause the camera while we find it. So what I've just done is I've put the flux paste on, and I've just put the tiniest little tack on one edge. Hopefully that's going to stay put. I expect they have clamps and things in the pipe work, so everything is cleaned with that file. So let's see if we can do what we did before and start in the middle and try not to ruin They use traditional soldering irons, not electric ones, where they're heating them on a gas burner. And in fact, I bought a couple off eBay to do this job, and then this has come from Alan. Well, you know what, that's absolutely fine. I'll unplug this beast. We'll clean the flux off. And the capillary action, you can see, is just taking it through to the other side, which is, so its positioning is spot on. Obviously we cut it right because we measured the existing one, and there's a absolutely perfect seam there, and if we'd have tried to do that with a smaller soldering iron, it would have been in bits and bobs. So if I blow down it by putting my hand over it, I'm not blowing down lead. So we've now got a note which is more or less where we'd expect it to be. Yeah, that's satisfactory. So I know you don't all want to look at organ pipes, but the point is, we've got this big soldering iron, and I was able to fix a CB with it yesterday, and today we've fixed an organ pipe with it, and I'm pleased with myself because it's nothing I've ever had training for to do something that big. So we'll hang on to our piece of leftover lead, because that's where we cut that piece from to make that. So it's not even pipe metal, it's just left over from the roof work on the chapel we had built. So thanks for watching a bit of a big soldering job. We've got I think we've got a Uniden 100 we're doing today, so that'll be published later on.